Hey, Jordan, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Susan? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, but oh my gosh, I had a friend tell me that she caught the COVID-19.
The coronavirus? Are you serious?
No, not the virus. The 19 pounds you get when you're quarantined because of the virus.
Oh, Susan, I feel her on a spiritual level.
Yeah, I think it's happening to me too. It's something that's really been on my mind a lot. So I'm
Yeah.
Susan Lea. I'm with Emerge Family Therapy, where I am a development director and a licensed marriage and family therapist.
And my name is Jordan Crosby. I am a marriage and family therapy student, and I am a student therapist at Emerge.
And we have been talking about eating your feelings and the connection between emotions and food. So, Jordan, we were talking the other day about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, so I was going through and I saw our Instagram page that you manage, and I saw that you had posted the triangle, the pyramid of Maslow with the different needs that we have as people. And so I saw down at the bottom that the basic needs that we have are physical safety, food, financial safety, and all I can think about is right now how we as a planet really are struggling to have that kind of safety.
Hmm. Right. I mean, I know some people have had difficulty finding basic grocery staples, and so knowing that you can get the food that you need, knowing that you have the next paycheck to be able to purchase groceries, knowing that it's safe to go to the store.
Right,
There's just lots of uncertainty in the air right now.
for sure. And I think something that we absolutely have to talk about with that is that our routine has changed as a
Mhm.
country and as a world. I think people are really having to adjust to not going to work for the same hours and their children not going to school. And I think that that routine has really altered the way that we're eating and caring for ourselves in general.
Sure. I know in our household that lack of structure provided by going to school/work and then coming home 8 hours later has really taken away the structure of our meals. And
Mhm.
I know that I'm guilty of tending to graze rather than stopping for, oh, this is breakfast, and now this, 3, 4 hours later is lunch. Instead, I'm just, oh, I'll grab a little snack, and the next thing you know, I've grazed the day away.
For sure. And, without us having that structure, it's easy to do that. And I feel like that point really resonates probably with a lot of people, Susan. I know it definitely resonates with me.
Hmm. So when our basic needs are met, you have mentioned previously a little bit about the effects on your body, the physiological effects. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. I love to talk to my clients about what's happening with our bodies when we're going through different emotional events because it's really important to think about um, what is going on inside of us, both within our minds and within our bodies, to understand how we can adjust to those challenges. And so I think it's important for us to talk about the two different types of stress. And so
Mhm.
we have short term stress and we have long term stress. And with short term stress, that's probably a reaction that most people are familiar with because that reaction is controlled by the hormone adrenaline. And so that's where fight or flight comes from. What I tell my clients is, that's you being chased by a bear, that's you being in a car crash, or that could even be you getting up to do public speaking to present a
Mhm.
project in your fifth grade history class. And so adrenaline is pumping through your body. It's a little hormone, which is a messenger that's going from your brain to the rest of your body, and it's increasing your blood pressure. It's making your body prepared to, figuratively run from the animal or literally run from the animal. But we also have another stress reaction that I'm not sure quite as many people know about. And so that's the long-term stress reaction, or the chronic stress. And so unlike adrenaline, which is a really steep spike,
Mm-hmm.
cortisol kind of works over a longer period of time. And so, while adrenaline may respond within a few seconds of stress happening, cortisol may be present in your body for weeks or months after the stress. And so cortisol's function is more about the anticipation of danger than a reaction to danger, which makes it a little bit different. But cortisol controls our blood sugar, it controls our blood pressure, and even our sleep. And so cortisol stays present in our system following long-term kind of stress. And so this could be stress in a job, this could be stress in a relationship, or that could be the stress of being in quarantine and not having financial or physical or nutritional safety. And so I would venture to say that the cortisol level of planet Earth right now is a lot higher than it was a few months ago. And having those high levels of cortisol can affect our immune systems. We become more likely to get sick when we're stressed out over long periods of time. They can affect our gastrointestinal system, so we can have all kind of stomach issues. It can affect fertility, and it can also affect hunger. And
Mm-hmm.
so people right now, with those high levels of cortisol, are feeling the results of that, and are led more to eat. And so that's really where that's coming from, I think.
And I believe that I read that the types of things people tend to eat when they're in those sorts of states tend to be things that are high in sugar, high in fat, what we call comfort foods. And that also sets up the potential for both weight gain in almost in the immediacy, but also pattern patterns of eating, patterns of disorganized eating. Maybe instead of pre-quarantine, it was an occasional dessert, now becomes skipping meals and having dessert as a meal a couple times a week.
Right. And those carbs and those fats are giving us comfort. And I think that there's an emotional level to it too, where those foods that are high in carbs and high in fats remind us of security. I think about Thanksgiving or Christmas, or
Mm,
even like a birthday cake. Those foods that are high in sugar and high in fat remind us of happier, safer times when we were with people who we care about.
hmm. Right. And I know that with more people in my household, more of the time, we've had to have more groceries on hand and different snacks, and we've actually called them quarantine snacks, sadly.
Hmm.
So in a way, we recognize that we are eating differently.
Right. And, with this event that we're in, there's not going to be a quick and easy transition back to what we considered to be normal before. And so I think an important conversation to have, especially when we're talking about eating, is lowering our stress levels so that we can lower those cortisol levels so that we're not getting that insatiable kind of hunger response that we've had as a result of stress.
hmm. So I think along with that goes some self-awareness of what are our eating habits. Now, I'm not talking about micromanaging every calorie, but
Mhm.
recognizing these patterns of disorganized eating or moving towards a healthy eating style. And I know that what's right for you at your age and your lifestyle is different than what's right for me, and even it's different with what's right for my 14-year-old. His needs are going to differ from yours and from mine, so that that self-awareness component is huge. And I know you have some great thoughts on the connection between mindfulness and nutrition.
Oh, for sure. I think that mindfulness is definitely one of those buzzwords when it comes to the therapy world. And I think even sometimes we hear it a lot and maybe get tired of hearing it. But I do think it's really important that we talk about it. And so mindfulness is just the act of living in the moment. And so one of the big things that I preach about eating in mindfulness is that nutrition has two different forms. We have the nutrition, the physical nutrition, and that's the nutrition that our doctors and dietitian friends are experts on. But we also have emotional nutrition, and that we can feed our souls and our hearts through eating mindfully. And so I was just talking to you about this, but one of the big signs for me that I'm not doing well with my self-care is that I stopped cooking. And so for me, I've been taking an effort a few times a week to cook a meal because that's something that I really enjoy. Now, is that meal the most nutritious thing on earth? Probably not. But the act of being in the moment and cooking it and smelling the smells and seeing the food cooking, and it's really a sensory kind of experience, and it got me to be in the moment. And I can definitely not definitely per se, but I have a theory that maybe lowered my cortisol levels a little bit. And one of the other things I'm trying to give an example of that lowers our cortisol level is being outside. And so Harvard did a study that found spending 20 to 30 minutes outside can lower our cortisol levels also.
That is amazing information. And you're talking about the self-care and taking the time to plan for that and follow through with it for yourself reminds me that an important self-care tool for families is eating together. And like even now, so with adjusted schedules, we'll call them, you know, we're in the house together a lot, like all the time. So it's not as sacred of an evening meal time as it used to be. But still being sure that we sit down together and eat together, even if it's a simple meal or even frozen pizza, you know, or something more complex. It's that self-care for families.
Mhm. For sure. And it gives us a little bit of a routine back. We're not going to easily be able to get our entire routine back, but we can take it back on our own by adding these small kinds of steps to give our lives just a little bit more normalcy during these really uncertain times.
And maybe even don't go back exactly to how things were, but incorporate new things. Like one of the things that I've had time for with this change is my husband and I have started walking 2 miles each morning. And so I want to continue that, knowing that once I have to get up at a certain time and get my son off to school and get, you know, across town to my job, I'll have to be getting up a lot earlier to still do that.
And I think that's a great example of you treating some of the chronic stress that you had even before this
Mm-hmm.
quarantine. I think that that's a great idea. And I think that I want to start something like it too.
So I appreciate you saying that, but I'm still sitting here going, but Jordan, why am I gaining weight?
So, once again, I'll refer to our and medical colleagues for the specific, help with the treatment of our bodies. But I think it's important to to remember to have compassion for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about all the science in our brains just to say that there's a reason why it's happening. And a big job that we have as therapists is to normalize things that are causing people shame and causing people stress. And so the world is going through this. And I would say that my biggest tip is to not necessarily target the eating, but target the emotions surrounding the eating, and that we should have love and compassion in all of our actions, including eating, and that's love and compassion for other people, but also for ourselves.
Yes,
And
yes.
so That's really hard for a lot of people. But you know, moving from that mindless kind of eating to that mindful eating, I think can really help us feel better about ourselves.
Mhm. Well, I think that is fantastic information. And you've said a couple times, we are not doctors or nutritionists, but we are marriage and family therapists who work with people dealing with their emotions and work with them to meet their goals. So if you have any questions or if you want information, you can contact Emerge at the number that we'll put in the in with the video. And anything else,
Yeah, because
Jordan?
we're actually starting new clients through telehealth.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you haven't seen us before, this can be a great opportunity to even start seeing us.
And if you can see this video, you have the technology that you need for telehealth.
Exactly.
Well, this is Susan and Jordan, and we'll sign off for now. Take care.
Yeah. Yeah. Mindfully eat.